What if I told you that the most abundant, high-yielding gardens on Earth require zero rototilling, zero synthetic fertilizers, and absolutely zero chemical sprays? They do not depend on industrial supply lines, they do not require weekly trips to a big box garden center, and they never cost a single cent to maintain. Instead, they work with simple self-generating natural systems to produce massive amounts of food with a fraction of the labor. I'm talking about permaculture, the original self-sustaining blueprint of the natural world. Today we are uncovering 9 permaculture gardening hacks specifically designed for beginners that will completely transform your backyard into an independent food forest. These are the exact ecological principles that were systematically buried under a mountain of commercial advertising for synthetic inputs, high-maintenance power tools, and retail dependency. Most people think that starting a backyard garden means spending hundreds of dollars on plastic weed barriers, bags of commercial topsoil, and chemical fertilizers. But the master growers who pull heavy harvests with almost zero effort just make a few smart structural decisions right at the beginning. I know this because for over 20 years I did it the hard way. I bought the tillers, I sprayed the synthetic chemicals, and every single summer my soil turned to brick while my wallet was completely drained. I was fighting nature with expensive technology instead of letting the earth do the work for me. You are not doing anything wrong. The problem is not your lack of a green thumb or your dedication. The problem is that the modern commercial landscaping complex has conditioned us to buy a corporate solution for problems that nature solved thousands of years ago for free. Stick around, because item 2 on our list turns a common backyard weed into a premium, self-generating fertilizer source that outperforms anything you can buy in a bottle. Item 6 reveals a geometric design trick that expands your planting space by 20% without adding a single inch to your garden perimeter. And if you make it to the end, Item 9 is a prehistoric irrigation trick that uses simple geological physics to cut your water bill by up to 60%. We are building a community of gardeners who grow smart, grow simple, and grow with nature. Hit that subscribe button right now so we can restore the self-sufficient skills our ancestors spent generations perfecting. Item 1, sheet mulching, also known as lasagna gardening. We begin our restoration of forgotten knowledge with sheet mulching, a soil building technique observed for millennia by indigenous forest gardeners and ancient woodland agriculturalists. They noticed that natural ecosystems build premium ultra-fertile topsoil from the top down, simply through the accumulation of falling autumn leaves and decaying organic matter without ever breaking the earth. Modern soil biology demonstrates exactly why this works so flawlessly. Mechanical rototilling completely destroys the delicate mycorrhizal fungal networks in the earth and releases locked-up carbon into the atmosphere. Layering organic materials directly on top of the ground mimics the natural forest floor, feeding beneficial soil microbes and earthworms while naturally smothering weeds. To execute this, simply lay down thick layers of plain, unprinted cardboard directly over your existing weeds or grass, soak it completely with water, and stack alternating layers of carbon-rich brown materials like fallen leaves and nitrogen-rich green materials like grass clippings. It completely disappeared from mainstream gardening guides when industrial equipment manufacturers realized they needed to sell high-maintenance, gas-powered rototillers and sterile bags of commercial topsoil to suburban neighborhoods. Contrast a $70 power tiller rental and $40 of bagged soil with $0 using free backyard waste. Think of it as a self-assembling soil factory that builds premium black dirt while you sleep. Item 2, chop and drop with dynamic accumulators. Our second technique is the chop and drop method utilizing dynamic accumulators like comfrey or ordinary dandelions. Traditional European cottage gardeners and ancient tribal orchardists routinely cut back specific deep-rooted perennial herbs to mulch the surface directly around their primary fruit trees and crops. Botanical science proves that deep taproot plants act as biological mining drills, reaching deep into the subsoil layers to pull up essential minerals like potassium, calcium, and magnesium, storing them heavily within their leaves. When you cut these leaves down 3 or 4 times a season and drop them directly at the base of your heavy-feeding tomato or pepper plants, they decompose rapidly, releasing a massive dose of bioavailable nutrients right at the surface. Chemical conglomerates realized they could not patent or repeatedly sell a common backyard herb, so they aggressively marketed synthetic petroleum-based granular fertilizers instead. Contrast a $25 tub of chemical fertilizer with a $0 lifetime supply of self-generating plant food. Think of it as a biological mining crane that lifts free minerals out of the deep earth and drops them directly onto your topsoil. Item 3, biological weed fertilizer teas. Our third entry-level hack is the creation of anaerobic weed fertilizer teas. Instead of pulling invasive weeds like stinging nettle, chickweed, or thistle and throwing them into the trash, ancient agrarian communities placed them into vessels of water to ferment. Biochemical analysis confirms that the fermentation process breaks down the plant tissue completely, extracting the highly concentrated nitrogen, phosphorus, and trace elements directly into the liquid. The resulting dark liquid acts as an immediate, highly potent microbial inoculant and liquid plant food that stimulates rapid leaf and root development. Stuff a 5-gallon bucket full of garden weeds, fill it with rainwater, cover it with a lid, and let it ferment for 2 weeks before diluting the liquid to the color of weak tea and watering your plants. Corporate chemical distributors push synthetic blue powders because free, fermented backyard weeds completely undermine their retail business model. Contrast a $15 bottle of synthetic liquid food with a $0 endless bucket of fermented fertility. Think of it as a biological brewing tank that turns your worst garden enemies into your finest liquid nourishment. Before we move into the highly advanced and heavily suppressed techniques from deep history, take a single second to hit that like button right now. When you interact with this video, you help break through the corporate algorithmic filters that push synthetic commercial products. Your like helps this ancestral knowledge reach thousands of other families who are tired of being completely dependent on a retail supply chain that profits from their lack of self-sufficiency. We are reclaiming our food sovereignty together, and your support makes it happen. Item 4. Polyculture Plant Guilds. As we escalate our search, we uncover polyculture plant guilds, perfected by pre-Columbian Mesoamerican civilizations through the famous Three Sisters Guild, where they planted corn, beans, and squash together to maximize vertical and horizontal space. Agroecology studies verify that mixing mutually supportive plants creates structural, chemical, and biological synergy. Nitrogen-fixing legumes pump nutrients into the earth to feed surrounding heavy feeders, while dense, broad-leafed ground covers block out invasive weeds and lock moisture into the soil matrix. Instead of planting single rows of a single crop, design a multi-tiered circle containing a central heavy feeder, a climbing legume, and a living mulch at the base. Industrial single-crop farming required perfectly uniform rows so massive mechanical harvesting tractors could drive through the fields, destroying biological diversity in favor of corporate mechanical efficiency. Contrast hundreds of dollars spent on plastic weed barriers and chemical sprays with a $3 seed mix that protects itself naturally. Think of it as a biological cooperative where every plant works a specific shift to protect the entire neighborhood. Item 5. Companion insectary barriers. Our fifth hack is the implementation of companion insectary barriers. For generations, traditional French cottage gardeners surrounded their vegetable plots with intense rings of aromatic herbs like marigolds, nasturtiums, and white companion clover. Entomological research shows that these specific plants emit volatile aromatic compounds that completely mask the scent of your vegetables, confusing destructive pests while simultaneously attracting beneficial predatory insects like lacewings and ladybugs. This creates an active, self-regulating biological shield around your food crops. Interplant these aromatic insectary species every 3 feet throughout your vegetable beds. Chemical monopolies suppress this knowledge to ensure homeowners remain completely dependent on purchasing highly toxic, broad-spectrum chemical bug sprays every spring. Contrast a $30 bottle of chemical pesticide with a $2 packet of companion flower seeds. Think of it as an invisible, aromatic security guard that hides your food from pests while inviting defenders inside. Item 6. The Edge Effect and Keyhole Garden Beds. The sixth hack on our list utilizes a core permaculture design principle known as the edge effect. Ancient African tribal agriculturalists and Asian terrace farmers stepped away from straight garden lines and shaped their planting areas into horseshoe shapes, known today as keyhole beds. Spatial geometry and ecology demonstrate that curving the boundary lines increases the actual surface area or edge where two distinct ecological systems meet. This configuration allows you to access an entire circular bed from a single central standing pivot point, expanding your usable planting space by 20% and entirely eliminating wasteful pathways. Shape your next garden bed into a circle with a small, single walkway cutout leading to the absolute center. Modern civil planning and industrial layout enforced rigid straight box grids because uniform straight lines fit standard commercial shipping crates and automated machinery. Contrast spending $50 on extra lumber for extensive rectangular raised beds with $0 for a geometrically optimized keyhole design. Think of it as a spatial origami trick that folds extra planting space directly into your existing footprint. Item 7. Micro-hugelkultur trenches. Our seventh technique brings us to micro-hugelkultur trenches, utilized for centuries across traditional Germanic forest gardens and ancient European mountain communities to manage volatile seasonal water transitions without human intervention. Soil chemistry and microbiology show that burying decaying carbon matter deep within the earth initiates a profound biological transformation. As the logs rot, they transform into a highly porous lignified matrix that acts precisely like a massive underground sponge, absorbing up to 4 times its weight in water and holding that moisture through months of blistering summer heat. To build this on a beginner scale, simply dig a shallow trench 1 foot deep inside your garden bed, pack the bottom tightly with rotting logs and fallen tree branches, cover it back up with your native soil, and plant directly on top. It was completely buried when land development corporations pushed the sterile aesthetic of uniform, flat lawn grids that completely banished natural woody debris. Contrast a massive summer utility bill from daily watering with a $0 subterranean sponge made from yard debris. Think of it as an invisible underground water battery that charges during the spring rains and discharges all summer long. Item 8. Ancestral Herb Spirals. We have reached the final 2 major secrets, starting with the ancestral herb spiral, engineered by traditional European permaculturists to maximize vertical growing space while creating multiple distinct microclimates within a single 6-foot footprint. Thermal dynamics and hydrology prove that building a stone spiral mounded with earth creates a diverse spectrum of growing conditions. The high stone-walled top of the spiral drains rapidly and absorbs solar heat, creating a hot, arid environment perfect for rosemary and thyme, while the low, shaded base retains moisture, creating a cool, damp environment ideal for mint and parsley. Stack ordinary backyard stones into a rising, snail-shaped spiral roughly 3 feet high, fill it with soil, and place your herbs according to their moisture needs. The commercial landscaping industry pushed individual plastic pots and uniform plastic shelving because a self-contained stone spiral eliminates the need to buy endless specialized potting mixes and individual plastic containers. Contrast $40 spent on separate plastic pots with $0 for a permanent stone earthwork. Think of it as a vertical microclimate mountain that lets desert and wetland plants live happily on the exact same structure. Item 9. Prehistoric Unglazed Clay Pot Irrigation, also known as ALAs. Finally, our 9th technique is the absolute masterclass in low-impact hydration, prehistoric unglazed clay pot irrigation, commonly known as ALAs, which is the definitive secret teased at the very beginning of our list. This technique was used for over 4,000 years across ancient China, northern Africa, in the driest regions of pre-Columbian America, to cultivate lush crops in hyper-arid deserts. Hydrological research confirms that burying a porous, unglazed clay vessel up to its neck creates a perfect subsurface moisture gradient regulated entirely by soil moisture tension. When the surrounding earth dries out, it gently draws water through the clay walls, delivering moisture directly to plant root zones via capillary action without losing a single drop to wind or surface evaporation. Simply bury an unglazed clay pot in the center of your garden bed, fill it with water, and place a flat stone on top to prevent evaporation. Plastic manufacturing monopolies and commercial municipal water utilities combined forces in the mid-20th century to sell cheap, short-lived plastic drip lines and automated timers that keep growers completely dependent on utility grids. Contrast replacing $60 of brittle plastic tubing every 2 seasons with a $3 clay vessel that lasts for decades. Think of it as a low-tech, subterranean heartbeat that breathes exact hydration into your garden roots on demand. Every single one of these 9 permaculture hacks proves a fundamental reality. Nature does not need a retail store to build life. It does not need chemical formulas, corporate patents, or municipal grids. The industrial garden industry wants us to believe that growing food is complicated and expensive, so they can position themselves as the only solution. But the leaves, the wood, the rocks, and the ancient physics of the earth are completely free and waiting in your backyard right now. Drop a comment below and tell me exactly which permaculture hack you are deploying in your yard this weekend. Are you layering cardboard for sheet mulch, or are you burying a clay pot irrigation system? We are building a community of growers who know how to take care of themselves, grow smart, and live with absolute independence. Click that subscribe button right now to step off their retail grid and reclaim your food autonomy today.